And while I love final expense, and I think it is the best product for a new agent who's just gotten licensed to start selling with, there are definitely things I hate about it. What I'm going to talk about in today's video are the 7 things that I hate about selling final expense. So if you're looking for a realistic perspective on not just the good side of the business, but the bad side of the business, then this video is for you. And let's jump right in. Okay, so number 1 thing that I hate about final expense, of course, is chargebacks. So what are chargebacks and why do I hate them? Well, chargebacks are what you get when you make a sale and then the client cancels the plan at a later date. The money you make from a final expense sale is an advance on commission, basically a loan. But it is secured by the collateral being the policy. And if that collateral goes away, then you owe back the prorated portion of commission that wasn't paid by the client in most cases with most carriers. So you could write a bunch of business, and if you write it poorly, you do a bad job of writing it, well, now you owe a lot of money back. So I personally hate that because I don't like debt. You should hate it because it causes you to not be able to fully realize the cash flow reality of your business. And then future sales that you make will have to pay down that balance. And if you don't pay it down, then what happens is you get vectored, your other carriers will terminate you, and you'll be out of the business before you know it. So how do you overcome chargebacks? Very simple. Write solid business, write with a variety of carriers. Don't get caught up in this one carrier captive nonsense. They tell you how great it is and simple it is, and there is definitely something with it. But the reality of it is that high-priced one product type of strategies get replaced more often, you don't get as many sales, and you get more chargebacks, all in all, leading you to a worser financial position potentially by being replaced and not making as many sales. With that said, chargebacks are going to happen. You have to be able to mitigate them. You're not going to eliminate them entirely. So be okay with chargebacks. Just make sure you're selling the right way with the right products, and you should be okay. Number 2 is flip-flop clients. I mean, look, here in the final expense business, we're dealing with poor people, and I mean no sort of animosity or judgment at all, but a lot of people who are poor are poor because they've made poor decisions. Let's face it, certainly there are people who have had bad times and we feel for them. But the reality is that many of our prospects have gotten to the age of 60 or 70 in this case, and they don't have life insurance because of reasons. Let's put it that way. They've made bad financial decisions their entire life. And along with this kind of reality comes a mindset where some people may say they're going to do something but then back out of it. Again, like chargebacks, this is just part of the business. You shouldn't feel upset or angry about it. You should accept it as it is. As soon as you kind of accept it and then learn how to deal with it, the better. A couple of things that I think help deal with flip-flop clients is make sure that you qualify them well. Make sure you ask some good questions so you can get their emotional commitment. Make sure you sell something to them that fits their budget so they don't flip-flop out of it because you oversold it. A lot of agents actually do that. And of course, one thing that I like too is to sell different products to make sure that the product you sell is the best combination of price and coverage for the client, because if it isn't, what will happen is I'll come behind you, one of my people, and replace you because you've wrote a bad inferior policy, and you'll be mad at them when you should be mad at yourself. Okay, number 3 is no-shows. So no-shows are when you set an appointment, whether over the phone or in person, and somebody says they're going to be there at a predetermined time and they're not. It gets annoying when you got to drive, especially if you're a face-to-face agent, and you got to go out like 30, 45 an hour away, and guess what? They're not there, or they choose not to answer the door. You can get mad, or like the other things that we mentioned, you can kind of accept this as a reality. The truth is, no matter what it is that you sell, even outside of insurance, you're going to have people who say they're going to be there and then not. Things happen in people's lives, guys. They may have last-minute urgent things. They may just be weak on the phone and don't have the conviction to say that they're not interested and just not show up because that's just how they are. But again, instead of getting mad, accept this as a reality. Now, you can do too many no-shows, and there's likely things that you have to critique or fix in your script that will help. But understand, even great agents out there are going to have people who simply do not show up. Accept the reality. Don't get mad at it. Number 4 is rough environments. Again, our clients are lower income, so the reality is you're going to be in some really rough urban areas. You're going to be in some really tough rural areas. You're going to be in government housing. You're going to be in trailer parks. You're going to be in places where you know there's drug deals going on. You're kind of worried about your safety. And I don't want to like sugarcoat this, guys, because it's not like you're going to be dodging bullets or anything necessarily. I mean, if you put yourself in some neighborhoods, you might be in that situation. But you can avoid that with good planning of where your lead generation strategy goes. But you want to make sure that you're cognizant about what's going to happen. We're not going into upper middle class areas where people are all happy and have money and everything is safe and secure. We're dealing with the working public, and a lot of them live in tougher conditions, and you got to be comfortable with that. added to that, our seniors sometimes are disabled, their health isn't the best, and they don't keep up well with their house. So you're going to be walking into some houses that look like episodes out of Hoarders. You may see roaches running across the wall. You may see poop on the ground. Like I had to step over a bunch of times with their, stampede of chihuahuas that come out to greet you. I mean, like, this is just kind of like how things are. This is how America really is. And if you have like a queasiness towards it, don't do it. What's the advice with that? If you feel unsure about your safety and you don't like going into these neighborhoods, then just do sales over the phone. That's probably the simplest solution to it. There have certainly been circumstances I've talked to agents who were concerned, and I said, just sell over the phone, and they're very happy making that decision. But you've got to be comfortable with this environment. Some of you out there who are in states that accept, you conceal and carry. If you think that is good to you, do that. I never felt like I had to, and I've been in all areas. I feel a pretty good salesperson, talk myself out of things. But if you don't feel that way, or what if, there's always that, then carry. It's just a reality. And I would say this too. When we're in the sales business of working B2C, business to consumer, this is just a reality of anything. This isn't unique necessarily to final expense. If you're selling into anybody's homes, anything can happen. And you have to just be, again, aware of that and accept it as it is. And if you can't, then just switch to telesales and avoid it entirely. Number 5 is a very little to no residual income. So this is probably the biggest issue longer term with final expense, which is why at DeFord Insurance Group, we train agents to ultimately get into Medicare or ACA later, because residual income is a big motivator for a lot of people to get into this business. What is residual income? Very simple. It's money you make without necessarily having to go work it immediately to get it. So final expense does pay a small residual, but it's just a couple of bucks on average per policy per month. Nothing to be super excited about. Whereas other products like Medicare and ACA, they may pay $20 to $25 a month, give or take, depending on the states that you're in. So if you're looking to build residual income, and those pay for life too, by the way, we like those products. Again, the problem though, and why we don't start agents with those, is because final expense pays a great first year commission. That's one of the good things about it. And the only other way, if you're going to stay in final expense to generate a great residual income, is to build an agency, kind of like what I've had. So long story short, if you're looking for residual income, final expense ain't it, unless you build an agency or eventually cross-sell something like Medicare or an Obamacare ACA health insurance type of plan. Number 6 is that there is a big multi-level marketing impact in this business that cannot be denied. Basically, everybody who mass recruits that has the largest agencies in this business, guess what? They're all about the multi-level marketing, recruit people to recruit people type of mentality. You may even see some of them say, well, you can sell if you want to, but the reality is, if you look at the compensation grid, truly the only ways to get good commissions is by recruiting people to recruit people and creating a bunch of different legs underneath you in a more direct sales, multi-level marketing type of capacity. So how do you be aware of this? How do you work around this? Number 1 is just understand if the typical tactics being used on you during recruiting, like talking big, huge numbers, talking about recruiting, if commissions are low and the comp grid is oriented in a way that you can only progress up it in a considerable way is by recruiting, chances are you're with an MLM. And understand there's a lot of shortfalls with those. You're going to not necessarily get great training. You're not going to necessarily get more great leads, more on that in a minute. And you're going to be in a system where you're just kind of thrown to the wolves. You're not going to get that value added one-on-one mentorship like what DeFord Insurance Group does, which, by the way, we're definitely not MLM. We don't recruit agents to recruit at all. We absolutely discourage it. So again, be aware of where you're at, what you're looking at if you're brand new to the business, and understand truly, for most agents, the best thing you can do is just to avoid the MLM stuff entirely and look for agencies that are dedicated to training you to become a top producer. And point number 7, last but not least, in the final expense business, can't say it any other way, there are shit leads in this business. So what do I mean by that? Well, there's a lot of things called leads that aren't actually leads. They're names in a phone book, glorified. They're recycled leads over the past 5 years that have been sold 15 times, and you're the 15th agent that has showed up. And what it ends up being is not a lead system to make sales, but a money machine for the MLM or the IMO that recruited you to make a substantial flow of income, whether or not you make a sale. Now, me personally, I think that sucks. I think that them turning you into a prospect, it negates the entire efficacy and honesty of the relationship. And that's what these big MLMs do. 3-letter MLMs, you know who I'm talking about. They all have some sort of lead system, and the whole idea of it is to set you up to buy their junk and then rate it up tremendously where they may pay 25 cents a lead, sell it for 10 bucks to 4 or 5 different people. And their income predominantly is generated from that, much less the overrides as well. And what that allows them to do is make money even if you don't. But it starts to get into really the truthfulness of the relationship. You depend on them for quality leads and referrals to quality lead vendors. And now they're basically taking advantage of your ignorance of not knowing the business. And the only way you're finding out about this is by talking to other agents who aren't afraid to talk about it or listening to me as I discuss it. So what can you do about leads? Again, get out of the MLM. That's the best thing I can say is don't even look at it. They're going to tell you what you want to hear. Their leads are great. Their commissions are great. Everybody's doing great. It's a lie. It's a cult. They're telling you what you want to hear. Instead, look for an agency that actually wants to train you to sell successfully, because then their motivation, like at our agency, is on you making sales. That's how I get paid, is you successfully making sales. So we both win. And in that relationship, it's a mutual win-win scenario, whereas the other, where you make a sale or you don't make sales, but they sell you a bunch of junk leads, they win and you lose. Why would you want to be in any kind of relationship in business like that? All right, so there are the 7 things that I hate about selling final expense, as well as a little advice on how to overcome them. Hopefully this helps you get some real life perspective about the final expense business. And I can't stress enough, if you're looking for a home or a place to call home, check out DeFord Insurance Group at daviddeford.com. We train agents in the final expense space, telesales, face-to-face. Our specialty is one-on-one training and mentorship from top producing mentors with years of experience in the final expense space. And we back that up with our sales success guarantee. Again, head on over to daviddeford.com to learn more. Thanks for watching.